Hi guys, this is Top here with another Revit tutorial. Today we're going to be looking at curtain wall and custom wall system paneling for our 308 building. So to get started, go to architecture and then go to wall. Scroll down and then you'll find curtain wall here, and then beneath it there are three types. One is curtain wall 1. And then this one has just a glass panel, no grid or mullions. Exterior glazing has grids, and storefront has grids, mullions, and glazing included as one. So we're just gonna start with the curtain wall, and then I'm gonna draw it in my plan. Okay, so as you can see, this is our glazing that we just created. It's one panel with no mullions or grid lines. To add grid lines, what you need to do is you need to go to Architecture tab, and then right here on my screen there's Current System, Current Grid, and Mullion. You're going to select Current Grid, and then if you place your hover your mouse over the top edge of the glazing panel, it's going to create a vertical line. And if you kind of hover your mouse to the vertical edge or the side of your glazing panel, you're going to see the horizontal grid dash lines. If you click it, you're going to create a separation between these two glazing panels. So if you hover your mouse and then kind of tab at the edge, you can cycle between certain certain property that you can click and adjust. So here I kind of have my panel highlighted. I can click it and then I can adjust the properties as I see fit. You can also select the grid that's here. So if you need to delete the grid for any reason, you can type delete and it's going to delete the grid for you. To add the grid, just go back to architecture, go to current grid, and then you can place your grid. You can also add grid. If you select on your grid, you're going to have an option in the modified current wall panel grids tab here to add or remove segment. If you click on it, you can kind of, let's say you know, I have this, let me Control Z for a second. So let's say I have this grid here, this one here being highlighted, and I want it so that there's no grid line coming in this square. So I want to remove this grid, but I don't want to remove the other two. So what I can do is if I click on the grid and I go to add remove segment and then click on the portion that I want to delete, that will take care of that separation between the two panels. So now it's if I select this glazing, so I kind of have to tab it. There you go. It's one glazing panel, and then here down below I keep my the grid separation the way that I wanted to leave it. Okay, so there's that, and then so the other thing that you're gonna look at is mullion. So mullion basically is usually an aluminum frame system that kind of keep your glazing together. It helps with waterproofing and insulation. So this is what your glass system normally sits on. And if you take the mullion and you kind of place it to where the grids are, these will create mullions for you. And if you want to delete mullions, just kind of tab it, and then sometimes they're pinned. Right now it's not pinned, so I can freely delete it, but sometimes they might be pinned, and to unpin, you're gonna go to modified, and in this region here there's unpin, shortcut for that is UP, and then there's pin, shortcut for that is PN. So if it's pinned, you want to unpin it, otherwise you can't delete the mullion or the grid line if they're pinned. Okay. So there's that. So for current walls, if we look at our plan, let me pull it up. Okay, so if I pull up the plan, this is the first floor plan, and then if I zoom in, let's see here. If I zoom in at the exterior on the south side, you can sort of see that these walls are not like the one that are over here by the fire stair. So the darker one, those are kind of a solid wall. These one here are curtain walls, and so to create these walls, you just have to use your curtain wall family, and then just kind of draw it normally like you would in a draw it like you normally would with the typical wall. So how I would do that is so I'm going to delete this for now. How I would create those walls is I would go to architecture, and I'm going to go to exterior glazing, because this is going to give me the grids already created, so I don't have to go in and one by one create all those grid lines. So I'm going to draw it, this 3D view, go back to level 1. So if I draw it here, and I look at it, you can see that it's already have grid lines created for me. And then if I click on this and edit type, there are different properties I can adjust and control so that my grid lines is this correct distance that I want it to be set to. So in vertical grid, if you know the spacing of the panel, you can set that spacing here. If you know the horizontal grid, the placement for these horizontal ones, if you know the height of those, you can set this here. These numbers I put here, they're not correct. You're going to have to look at the elevation to determine the numbers that you need to use. So look at your plan and elevation to determine these numbers. And then we hit OK, that will adjust it for you. And then for mullion, over here, this is where you select your mullion, and there are different properties, so you can select all grid lines if you want to put your mullion on auto grid line. There you go. If we go back to edit type for that exterior glazing, you can control the different mullion properties for that particular exterior glazing right here. So if you scroll down, you should see vertical mullions, horizontal mullions, and then interior type, border type 1, border type 2. Here you can sort of change to the family, the mullion family that you want to change it to. So that's it for the current wall. So the next thing that we're going to be doing is how to create our custom metal paneling system that you see in when you start. I think the second floor has it. I know definitely the 5th floor has it. So I'm going to bring up the 5th floor plan. So here's the 5th floor plan. If you zoom in and look at the wall at the living units, you're going to see here that we have these walls here are not the regular wall that we typically see on the interior and then on some of the exterior. So these one here are your sort of metal paneling system. So I believe this one here, this is just a regular window glazing curtain wall here, and then this here, you follow my mouse here, this here is the metal glazing. Quick way to sort of identify those is if you go to your elevation, and then if we look at the wall, you can see here that these are the glazing, and then here is your metal panel. Oops. So I bring up the fit floor plan to take a look. Oh, sorry, I made a mistake here. So this one right here is the windows. So this is transparent. The one with the little hash mark here, those are the metal panel. Then next to it is the glazing, and I think they indicate that with the sort of a little dash line at the bottom as well. So yeah, look at the plan and elevation to determine what is solid and then what is transparent. Okay. Alright, so to create this wall, I think the easiest way to do it is to use the current panel system. There are several ways to create this type of effect, but I'm just going to show you guys how to do it using the current panel system. So go back to your wall in the architecture, click on it, and then scroll down to find exterior glazing, and just sort of I don't know the spacing in the for the grids, for the vertical grid and the horizontal grid, so I'm just gonna leave it 5 foot and 10 foot. You guys can go back and adjust it however you want, or how the plan instruct you to. I'm gonna draw the wall. So basically everything you create is gonna be all glass, and what we need to do is we need to replace this glass with a solid panel. So how you do that is you create a new family. So to create a new family, go to the Revit logo at the top left hand corner, go to new and then family. You scroll down, what you're going to find is window current wall. Click on that and then open. So here is our sort of guidelines so that we can create our metal panel for us. So what you're going to do is you can go to extrusion, you're going to click on that, and then you're just going to draw a box. So actually before we do that, let me explain something first. So these green lines here, they're called reference plane or reference lines. So what they do is they sort of help us position our object so that when we move these plane, our object move along with it. And then what you're going to want to do is you're going to create extrusion, and then you're going to draw a box. So the edge of the box, one of the edge is going to be against one of the plane here on the left side, and the other edge is going to be against the other plane on the right side. And then when you create something like this, a sort of a lock symbol will show, and if you click on it, that will lock the edge toward the side, so that when we so lock these edge here to the side and hit the green button, the check arrow, what happened is that when we move these plane, our object moves along with it. And we go to 3D view, you can see this is our object I created here. Is this rectangular box extrusion. So go back to floor plan reference level. And so what we want to do, we want to create a wall that is about, so if you pull up a section of a wall, so this is a section of the metal panel system here. Then if you look on top, this glazing that kind of sits, it's a built-in glazing of the metal panel that kind of sits on top. So what we want to do with our custom window curtain wall creation family is we want to create a square box that has the right thickness. And to determine the thickness of your wall, in this wall detail section here, A4.0, they label it typical exterior metal wall construction, wall type N2, and then underneath it they give you dimensions of the different materials that make up this wall. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna want to add all these numbers and then determine how thick this wall has to be. So I already added all these numbers up, and it turns out to be around 9.75 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to edit extrusion again, and I'm going to click one of the edge, and it's going to show me this dimension, the current dimension. I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to change it to 9.75 inches. And the reason for that is because that's the thickness that was provided in our plan. After you do that, you hit OK. The next thing that we're going to do is that we're going to place this in the center of the reference line, the horizontal one here. And the reason why we want to do that is so that it works nicely when we load it into our Revit model, the main Revit model, so that the windows, if we have like, for example, a glazing system to the side, we want to make sure that the mullion and the glazing panel, they kind of sit nicely together, and the best way to do that is to move this to the center. Now we're not done. What we need to do next is to go to the exterior elevation. You can pick either exterior or interior. We'll pick exterior, and we need to make sure that our rectangular shape here, if we click on it, we need to make sure that the top portion of our extrusion is set so that it's aligned with this upper reference plane. So to do that, click on your box and then drag it up, then lock it to that reference plane. And you do that because we want it so that when we change our grid height, our panel goes up with it. Okay, so if you look in 3D view, basically it. So this is our metal wall. Now it doesn't have all these layers that you see here, and you know that's okay. In order to create the wall to be exactly like this, you don't normally do that when you're modeling. You do that when you're working with when you're cutting a section through this wall, and then you're annotating it in a different sheet. So this is fine for now. Then what you're gonna do is you're gonna have to save this. So save as family, and then just find a location that you want to save it to, and save it. Next is you're gonna open up your project. So you'd open up your Revit model for the 308 building, and you're gonna want to create an exterior glazing wall like you see here. And then what we can do is if we tab our panel, we can go to edit type, and we can load in the family that we created. So find where you create the panels and then open it, and then hit OK. So here you can see that we have our solid wall inside our glazing system, and if we put in mullion, the mullion kind of sits, might be hard to see. So the mullion kind of sits right next to it. So the mullion, the mullion right now, the size doesn't really match our wall thickness. You see here, like there's a edge here that needs to be filled, or basically the mullion has to sort of be a little bit deeper. So to adjust that, you just go to edit type, duplicate this, call it 9.75 inch mullion, and adjust the thickness. So this thickness here, it basically controls the depth, how deep your mullion is. So we change this to 9.75 inch to match our thickness of the wall. And there you go. Let me measure, double check something. Oops, so it looks like our metal panel accidentally labeled it incorrectly. Wrong one. Let me edit this family for a second. Oh, okay. And then let me move this to the center. Alright, so if create the wall thickness the right dimension, it should match up with the dimension of the mullion. So whatever your mullion is, make sure the thickness is the same as your the metal panel that you created. So here you go. So and then we change this so that it's the same size. Okay. And so quick way, so right now what I'm doing is I'm going one by one to sort of add in this metal panel. Different way of doing that, if you edit the exterior glazing type and change it so that the glazing, sorry, not that one. Let's see, where is it? So here, curtain panel. If you set so that it's the metal panel family that we created and hit apply, it will replace all the glass with our metal panel. So this way, depends, if your wall has a lot of solid, then you want it to be majority of it, you want it to be the metal panels, then change it so that it's a metal panel. But if it's dominated by glazing, then just make sure the type is the glazed. So I'm going to drag this up a little bit higher. So in your elevation, you're going to have a situation where you have, windows sitting in your middle panel. So to create that is you just basically, so let's say that this here, adjust this a little bit. So say that this here is my level 5 to level 6, and I need windows, in between these metal panels. So to create that, just go to architecture, go to current grid, and you're gonna create grid to where these windows needs to be located. So let's say here, here, and here. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna tab that panel and change it, unpin it if it's pinned, and then change it to your glaze, like so. And then that's how you create windows within the metal panels. And then to make it nicer, kind of put the mullion around the side. So you see our problem here. So for some reason, we accidentally we create a grid across our panel, and we didn't really need to do that. Basically, we want this panel to be one solid panel without separating it into pieces. So what you need to do is, if you look earlier in the video, told you guys how to add and remove grid. So what we need to do is we want to remove this grid so that this panel here is one panel instead of two. So we tab and select our grid, go to add remove segments, and we're going to remove this segment so that this here is now one panel. So I'm going to remove this one as well. So now if we go to mullion and we put the mullion here, it only applies within the glazing. Since we have the mullion on this grid, the line on this grid, it creates the mullion for us. So what we need to do is just remove that line. Basically go and then remove all these. To select the mullion, you know, if you have like a mullion along this horizontal line, you want to select all of them, do a right click, and then select mullions, cross grid line or on horizontal grid. So just cycle through different options to see which one give you the best selection. I'm gonna select on grid line. Delete that. So it looks like I have to delete these grid before I can actually add a mullion on top of here without adding it across my wall. I'll go do that, remove all the grid. Right, there you go. So now I don't have any horizontal. Go and do this part of my metal panel just here where my glazing is. So now if I put my mullion, there's no mullion on my panel on this side. Okay, so that's pretty much how you add windows or transparent material in a wall system. So that is what you guys will have to do for this building. So here, see this wall here, wherever there is openings, transparent openings like you see here, that is where you're going to need to put your glaze. And then the other one, these should be metal panels. So there's a little bit of a slight problem the way that I showed you guys how to put mullions around this glazing here. So this glazing, it will have aluminum frame around it, but in order to put those frames, you can't really use the mullion tool because that will screws up our the metal panel. So another way to add frames around it is you're gonna have to create a new family, basically create a glazing panel that has the frame around it already. So to do that, hit the R button, the Revit logo, go to New, Family, Window, Current Wall, So here we want to start with the exterior, and what we're going to do, we want to create the extrusion for our frame. So say here, and then you want to maybe have like an offset of, I don't know, 2 inches for the frame. And you hit OK. Then you lock the side here so that it moves with our reference plane. And then what I usually do is in the extrusion, I usually use my dimensioning, align dimension. I'll dimension these just to double check that they're, you know, the right thickness, the right frame offset, and I would lock it so that we don't have error later on where one side has, you know, 4 inches frame and the other one has 2 inches. So locking it will ensures that that problem will not happen. Okay, so now if we move this, our frame stays the same offset. Okay, so what we have right now is the frame, the aluminum frame, and then next thing that we need to do is we want to add in the glazing that goes inside. So go back to exterior, create, extrusion. I'm going to draw a rectangle inside our frame and lock it. Okay, now if we look at it, we have, well, right now we have a solid inside and then another solid on the outside. To change the material of it, just click on it. In the material category, we need to assign it so that this is glass. Because if we leave it as default, it's just going to be solid. The other one, we can leave it as solid because technically aluminum is a solid object. And then glazing, you know, it's transparent, it let lights in, so we want to change that to glass. Then we want to go to our floor plan, reference level, and adjust so that our thickness for this, so you need to create another reference plane. Maybe like 2 inches. And I'm going to dimension this reference plane and then lock it so that I know that it's going to stay 2 inches and nothing is going to kind of move it around. And then just click on your shape here. So I'm going to click on the frame. This one's the frame. And then I'm just going to lock it to those reference planes. And click your glaze and then lock it there as well. And if we look, we have our, so if I click on this block and then go to shaded, we have a frame with the glazing inside. Okay. And next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to go to save as family, pick a location, call it panel with frame, save, load the project, and then just similar to how we add in our metal panel, tab and select our glazing panel if you have one, or anything, or any panel that you want to change the window. And I didn't see it, but it's right here up above, panel with frame, just like that. And then there you go, you can sort of see here we have our window, there's glazing and then there's frame around it, just like the drawing. if I zoom in. See, there's a frame here. So that's what we created, and this is what you need to do in your project. So that's it for the video. I hope that covers everything you guys need to know in order to create the panel system for the exterior. If you have any question, email me, email your TA, and then we'll try to answer them. And for Thursday, everybody, it's midterm for you guys, so make sure you study for that. And during midnight, before midnight, you need to upload a section, longitudinal and latitudinal, that cut through the stairs of your building. Okay? Alright, thank you. Have a nice day.